Hi everyone, welcome to Sports Quotes and Facts Untold. I'm joined by Sandy Domingos-Shipley today, who founded Wrexham Canada. Sandy, have you managed to come down from cloud nine yet after what was an epic season?
Not quite. It has been quite an epic journey. I mean, I'm a big sports fan. I mean, I've followed sports from hockey to European football, and I've experienced a lot of, I've been to the 1998 World Cup in France, and I must admit, the journey that we've had going to Wrexham and the people have really made it one of the best, if not the best sporting experiences I've had. And I do a lot of sports, but yeah, it's been great. Our Facebook group, even though obviously it's been weeks since the final game, it's just as active because we're still talking about how much fun it was, encouraging other people who want to come over next year, and kind of sharing our experiences. But yeah, I mean, everyone's still buzzing about it because it's just like, do you remember this? Do you remember that? And yeah, it's fantastic.
And you're originally from Toronto and you're now living in Leeds.
Yeah.
So obviously your journey to the racecourse isn't as far as Canada. But, what's it been like to bring Canadians together to follow the club?
Yeah, there's a very, very large expat community group within the UK. I mean, we've got Canadians who've come from Scotland and Ireland, Dubai, China. I mean, it's all over the place. And the racecourse and the whole Wrexham journey that we've had has really brought us together. And but yeah, I try to organize everybody, so there's a lot of logistics to kind of work out in terms of making sure we meet up at restaurants for after the game or accommodation and so on. So, but I absolutely love it because when people do come over, their experiences is one that I will always cherish. The smiles, the laughter, for me, it's worth every minute that I spend trying to bring people together, whether they're flying over, like I said, from Dubai, China, Canada, or they're coming from Scotland or London or even just from Manchester. It doesn't really matter because ultimately when we get there, we're all in one group, and yeah, it makes it very, very fun.
And you mentioned you've been to France for the '98 World Cup. I know that you're a football fan. You follow teams, different
Yeah.
teams in different countries. But what was the first time you sort of heard about Wrexham, or was it solely down to the Ryan Reynolds takeover and that Canadian connection?
When I first heard it, I thought I must be misreading this. It was, one of those things that you think, is this a joke? Is it April Fool's? I don't know. It was just one of those bizarre things because Ryan's never been associated with sport that we knew in Canada. He's obviously, he does a lot of charity stuff. I mean, or, obviously the movies and TV, but never. So I, for a minute, thought, there must be something not right with the story. So I kind of followed it behind the scenes. But last year, I was back home with a friend of mine called Joe, and we were at a sports bar, and we had just gone to a Blue Jays game. And after the game, we went to the sports bar with our families, and Joe says to me, do you think we should do a trip to Wrexham? Have you been watching the documentary? And I'm like, I'll think about it. As an organizer that I am, because I've done stuff like this before, he says, what do you think? I'm like, yeah, maybe. And then it got me thinking. This was like July time last year. And then from August, I posted on the expat Facebook group, anyone want to come with me to Wrexham and let's show Ryan our support? As a Canadian, we love to support other Canadians in whatever they do, whether it's a Canadian brand or whatever. We do really want them to succeed. And also because Ryan is a very, very, great ambassador for Canada. Like, he does a lot for our country, and we're really proud of what he does and how genuine he is. I thought I'll put in the effort and let's do this. So I thought I'll probably get about 10, 20 people wanting to come because Wrexham isn't logistically the easiest place to go if you don't drive or if you don't, so on. And within 24 hours, I had 100 people that wanted to come. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Because we had people wanting to fly from Ireland and coming from Scotland, like expats, just to meet up and to support Ryan at the same time. So I was like, wow, this is getting a bit crazy. And then there was a train strike. So it went from 100 to 60. But still, we had people coming on a coach, like for 4 or 5 hours, just because they wanted to be there. And our intention was it was meant to be a one-off trip because we didn't know anything about it. We had no idea what the area was like. But I'll tell you one thing, within 5 minutes, they want to come back. I'm like, we've not even left yet, but they want to come back again. And what's happened is our group just grew. So we're now around just about 180 now, and from different parts. And every time we go, we meet Canadians who've gone on their own and they join our group, so that we're slowly catching up. We're meeting up other Canadians, and they get very excited, because the last thing you expect is to see a bunch of other Canadians in a Welsh pub when you think you're going to be the only one there. So there was one time in our November trip, there was a guy called Miles who came over for work, but he then had a ticket, and he walked into the turf and he's like, why is everyone in Wrexham sounding Canadian? Because there was 60 of us in the turf at the back. And he was just like, is this some sort of like quantum leap situation where I'm like, but honestly, and that's what it's always like. So we, like I said, we love to meet other Canadians. We get really excited. We go, oh my God, another Canuck or whatever. And yeah, so it's worthwhile doing these, because those smiles and those memories mean a lot. And thing is, in North America, we don't get as many holidays. So when I know people are making the effort to come over to Wrexham, I just want to do a little bit to help them make sure that they maximize the time that they are here. Whether it's I'm at the game or others, I will always connect anyone who's traveling over with the UK-based Canadians, so there is some sort of bridge between their experiences. So, you know, we want to make sure that if you're here for 4 days, it is the best, awesome 4 days you've had. And yeah, so that's kind of how it all grew from just one trip in November.
And you mentioned that, you know, you were talking about this back in Canada. Now, I know, so I actually live in the Wrexham area. I'm from the Wirral next to Liverpool originally, but I'm here, and I've noticed the buzz around the town, but in and around, you know, the UK as well. The documentary really reached people that maybe aren't football followers as well. What's the documentary been like in Canada? You know, is it a big thing over there as well? The fact that a Hollywood superstar is at Wrexham.
Yeah, obviously with Ryan being involved, and like I said, he is such a great ambassador for Canada. You know, people will take a genuine interest, because like with the Ottawa Senators, people just want them to succeed. So the documentary has become very popular. And I think because Canada have got a lot of European connections with like Portuguese, Italians, and Spanish, people are more aware of European football as a term football. So, you know, especially Toronto, places like Toronto, that's full of Europeans who know very much a lot about European football. Like me, I grew up as a Benfica fan, so I've always been aware of the relegation, promotion. I've always been brought up with that. So I think it was easier for Canadians to adapt to the documentary and to actually understand the documentary and the whole sports element to it, because there is such a big immigration group of Europeans in Canada since the 1970s. So yeah, it's been great. So when we do see people come over, it's been great to hear their experiences and kind of how much they've fallen. We've got some Canadians who've never been into sports at all. I mean, they've never been into sports, even though they've got kids. They've never been interested in sports, but they've come over to show Ryan. I know Rob's a great guy, but obviously we've got a soft spot for Ryan. And they've come over just to kind of see what it's all about. And they've left following the sport. And for me, it's always been more than just the sport. I know obviously we talk about community. And I think with us Canadians, we're trying to build our own through the connection with Ryan and Wrexham. And to be fair, the Wrexham people have been so welcoming. Many of us have said, we felt we've been more welcomed very quickly into Wrexham, into Wales, because I think there's a lot of synergy between the Welsh and the Canadians in terms of the way we are as individuals. But yeah, so most of us have been the UK-based group have been about 9 times. And in those 9 times, we've met about 60 Canadians at different times, because obviously we're not there every week. So there's obviously other people that go in between. But in terms of our group, we've met about 60, which has been awesome.
I was really interested to ask as well about how the locals have, welcomed you into the club? Because I read as well that the Turf Butty van, one of the games they actually put on like a meal of, is it poutine? Is that how
Yeah,
you say
yeah,
it?
poutine, yeah.
Yeah.
So Wayne, I love this guy. I know everyone says he's the nicest guy, but for us, when people make the effort to do something linking to your culture, to what you are recognized. So it was a joke tweet that I put out there about poutine. I'm like, come on, Wayne, will you do some poutine? Because it is like the best meal ever. It's not the healthiest, but who cares?
So,
It can't be
so
always
what is it,
healthy.
Sandy? It's chips with
So
cheese and
it's,
gravy.
well, yeah. So it's deep. It has to be deep fried chips. It can't be, oven isn't great. It's got to be oil based. And then the key is cheese curds. It can't be any cheese. It has to be cheese curds. And then the gravy. Now the gravy, the best combo is 50% chicken gravy and 50% beef gravy. Mix them together. So we put that out, and obviously other people who've been to Canada and have tasted a good poutine were saying, yeah, it's the best. So Wayne messaged me going, where do you get these cheese curds that I've never heard about? So there was actually a farm in the UK that actually produces cheese curds. And I'm sure they make more money off us Canadians than anybody else. I mean, if you look at our Facebook group, most people will ask, where can I get cheese curds? I need a poutine. So I sent him, and he actually bought the cheese curds. And the morning that we were there, the staff were asking us, can you try it? Can you see? And it was some of the best poutine we have ever tasted in the UK, without fail. And the effort, he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to respond to anything. But it's hard to explain how much we appreciated that effort to just do something. He could have used mozzarella cheese or whatever, but no, he went and did that. And we Canadians are very appreciative whenever people go the extra mile. And something like that, he didn't have to do, and he did. And oh my God, yeah, it was heaven. It was heaven.
That's and it is just amazing, isn't it? That the Wrexham fans have, before the takeover, the football club has had a really difficult time. But it's just great, isn't it? The way that the two sides have come together and clearly appreciate the support from one another, and it boosts the club further, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, one thing we were very interested in is obviously the documentary is very well written, as in scripted and kind of put together. But the one thing that we really couldn't get our head around before we went is, how can a club be literally the heart of people's lives, whether you're a football fan or not? Because if you're from a big city like Toronto, Vancouver, Boston, it's very difficult to really try to understand, because obviously sports teams in North America are franchise based, and it's a very different world. So when we went to Wrexham the first time in November, we were all so interested in learning the stories and kind of really trying to grasp it in our heads how a football team can literally be the glue that bring people together. Whether, like I said, they are a sports fan or not, it was really hard for us, because if you're from a big city, you don't know any different. I mean, if you look at other UK cities with one football team or towns, I generally don't think you will always get that. But I think the journey that the fans have gone through, the unfortunate journey that it's gone through, has brought people together from all over the place within Wrexham. I mean, I think, because I was hearing stories that people who've never been to a game were still giving them the money to try to, save the club and so on. But honestly, the most fascinating thing was learning about people's stories that I cannot try to imagine what it was like for people. Like I said, I'm from Toronto. It's a very big city. Everything is commercialized. So it's, very difficult to understand. But like I said, my dad's Portuguese. I mean, I've supported European, Benfica and Braga in Portugal. And even them, I can't imagine if they ever had anything like that. Yeah, it was, but honestly, every time I go, I learn something new. And that's the great thing. You meet new people. others introduce me to other people, and we're always learning about it. And then vice versa, the Welsh are very interested in wanting to know about Canada and kind of want to know, where to go, or, what's it like, and in terms of getting to places, and what do they recommend. But yeah, it's been a really amazing mutual friendship that we've just been growing as we keep on going. And like I said, as our ambassadors to the Canadian side, when we go and obviously we have a first time person going, we introduce them to the Welsh people that we've met so they can share their stories. So we really like them that when they do come, whether, like I said, if for 2-3 days, that they really immerse themselves into the Welsh, the Wrexham community by speaking to the locals and not being shy. Because I'm not a shy person, so I will definitely introduce people to others because, like I said, I want them to really get the most of their trip, whether it's for 2 days or a week or whatever. But yeah.
And there's obviously there's the community element, and then there's the obviously the Hollywood factor. But for people who are new to the sport, the drama on the pitch is pretty amazing as well, isn't it? Some of the high scoring games, the way Paul Mullen scores so frequently, Ben Foster in goal with his penalty save. It's not only been about what's going on off the pitch, but on the pitch, it's just been so enthralling as well with the record points total.
Yeah, and the thing is, the whole Notts County and Wrexham thing, that's been the most awesome thing ever. And, some people obviously see them as opponents and as the enemy or whatever you want to call it. But actually, if you look at the Michael Jordan, he looked at Shaquille O'Neal, as actually the person that helped him be the player he is. You need to have somebody that is challenging you all the time, whether it's the coach to coach challenge or the striker to striker. It's always good to have someone like that. And I do think that because we had a Notts County in the league, it's forced the players to want to be better. No, I'm not saying they couldn't win without Notts County, but I just think that having someone like that is literally your equal is just and I think that's where we were just a little bit better, is how we used our weaknesses to just get that little bit better against Notts County and so on. So for me, I love that part of sports. And sometimes I wish I wasn't a sports fan because it drives me. I'm an emotional sports fan. So my husband he likes the numbers, the stats, and I am the emotional person. So I'll be the one doing this. I'll be the one crying if we lose. And like I said, I went to the 1998 World Cup final. I know it was 3-0. Don't ask me who scored. I can't remember, but I was there. So that's the kind of the fan I am. So yeah, so for me, I need that competition because weirdly, I like the stress of being a sports fan. And, it ages you, but I actually don't think I'd rather have it any other way, because I think if you win all the time, it does get boring. So you need someone, I think, to kind of scare you a little bit. And then you kind of go back to let's win and so on. But yeah.
And obviously this season, Wrexham have been getting, more than 10,000 fans, which really, it doesn't happen in that tier of the English football pyramid to get that many fans. How does that compare to sort of Canadian sport in terms of the numbers and the level? What's it like over there?
Numbers wise, the stadiums are so much bigger. It's, and they always sell out. I mean, the difference, I think, with North American sports, at least with Canadian sports, is the cost of sports is a lot more. So hockey, for example, is very expensive. Tickets are very expensive. I mean, I'm a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, so, we've suffered enough. The last time we won the Stanley Cup was 1967. We still not managed it, but yet we're the original hockey team of the six, and yet we've not done anything. But Toronto fans are they stick by their team. I mean, Toronto Maple Leafs, like I said, have not won since 67, but they still have a 30-year waiting list for a season ticket. They sell out every day, every game. And the cheapest, if you were to buy on your own, is in the hundreds. So sports is just a very, very different beast in North America, but the numbers are 20,000, 30. mean, again, there's only one baseball team. Baseball is probably the most affordable of the sports because like for the Blue Jays, you can get tickets for like $30, but you're obviously in the 500s. But also can get more expensive if you're closer to the bases, etc. So it is a very different animal altogether if you are going to watch sports, whether it's in Europe or in North America. But like I said, I think the challenge that Wrexham have is as they keep on going up, what do they do about the space? Because obviously they've got the extension, which is going to be an amazing piece of architecture in itself, because I think it's going to make people want to have, it's going to generate a third income stream for the city and the club, because those facilities can be used for conferences, weddings, whatever it is. So that generating of additional income would ultimately, I would assume, help the club, be able to buy players as they go up, etc. The problem is, where do you go from there? It's a good problem to have. If they get, when they get to championship, whether it's in 5 years' time or whatever, is what happens. So it's a good problem to have. But it wouldn't surprise, it'll always sell out. Even if they got a 60,000, I can't imagine it not selling out, because obviously the locals would go, but the international base is just going to get stronger and stronger, especially as the relationship between the international fans, the locals, and even just people who are curious to want to be part of something that is really unique. Because if you look at international ownership of UK clubs, it's not great. Let's be honest. No matter where it is, whether it's American, from Asia or whatever, it's not the best, because they come in and they want to run the club themselves. But like Ryan and Rob said, we ain't got a clue. It's not for us to. And if you look at any business, I remember Richard Branson once said, I have ideas, but the people that are telling me and advising me are the ones who know what to do. I will just make the ultimate decision. So Ryan and Rob's approach is, I will invest. You tell us what you need. We'll consider it. We'll talk about it, but we'll trust your professional, capacity that you are, that is the right player or whatever. But if you look at Chelsea, £600 million worth of players in January, which I've never seen that much money in a January transfer window. And look what they've done. So I think because their approach is so different, that is actually making more people curious of, why can't our owners be like that? Why can't they take a piece of that? And I think when future owners want to take part, people want to see how much, someone needs to be a good standard owner. Somebody has to be. In my walk of life, from a professional point of view, there are standards for different things. And when one club or one company does a very good piece of work, or is a framework, you want a bit of that. So when they look at the way Ryan and Rob have grown the team, grown outside the club, just around the local community, the engagement between ownership and the fan base and the community, or the city, whichever you want to call it, other people will say, why can't we have a little bit of that? Why can't you look at them and do that, instead of just coming into my club that was here way before you started, you joined? Why can't we have a bit of that? So I think slowly, in a way, I think that Rob and Ryan have got a very good cooperative organizational mentality, which is, we are in it together. We will listen to all the interested parties before we make a decision. And the cooperative model, whether it's a full-on cooperative model or just the ethos of the cooperative model, is one that I think people can learn from. And I think it's getting other fans to question their own ownership. And I think if you look at Liverpool, they're trying to change that. They've created a kind of a fan cooperative infrastructure so that there is a more of a closer connection between fans and the club, not the full co-op model, which obviously means the fans own the club, which is not that, but it's that engagement, that communication link. And so I think what they're doing is going to really force other fans or the club owners to go, okay, I think we might have to change our tactics slightly, which is great for the sport, because ultimately sport is not there for the owners, sport is there for people.
Of course, and I think that's probably what's so refreshing about the Wrexham story, is that Ryan Reynolds and Rob, they've come in and they've held their hands up. We don't know about how to run a football club in that way, so they've got the experts in, and I think that's probably what's captured the imagination of other football fans who might be rivals with Wrexham, but it is good to see. And you mentioned there about the demand, the increase, and it's not only people that are from Canada that are interested, celebrities as well. And what's that been like to be in the turf to see Paul Rudd having a pint?
Well, seeing him there was really bizarre. But again, because I'm from Toronto, I grew up in the summertime having celebrities all over the place, because Toronto in the 80s and 90s was used a lot for movies. And even now, Canada is used a lot for a lot of movies, because I think it's cheaper than filming in the US. So sometimes if you look at the movies and TV shows, if you see, for example, streetcar tracks, which is like tram lines, we know it's in Toronto, that's filmed in Toronto, because it's one of those. So we're used to seeing people like that, and we treat them as normal. We're just saying, I remember having Mr. T was filming in Toronto outside my backyard kind of area, my laneway, and for the summer they were filming a movie. I'm like, Mr. T is literally 2 minutes from my house, and I spent the whole summer just watching him do a movie. It was as a 9-year-old, I was like, oh my god, this is the funnest thing ever. But no, it is fun, because I can see that they genuinely want to understand and be part of this. And whether it's Will Ferrell or whatever, it's just part of the journey of Wrexham. And again, it's just helping others get into the sport, or just knowing about the town. Like I said, there's so many fantastic restaurants and cafes, and people are generally friendly, and that is what sold Wrexham to a lot of people, is the fact that, because we could have been there for Ryan like we did in November, but if the people were cold and not interested and not chatty like we are, as you think, we probably wouldn't want to come back. And Ryan and Rob didn't make you guys that. You guys were already like that. So what they've done is they've just opened the doors for us to get to know you guys. And to be fair, most of the people that I've met that have been the most amazing people in the UK have been from smaller towns and not the bigger cities. And so he's just giving you a platform to show how nice you guys are as a nation. Because, like I said, Wrexham isn't on everyone's map at the time, because it's not, it was an international city or anything like that. But now that we all know, we always want to be back. So one of my friends said, I think you should just buy a house in Wrexham, Sandy, because you're always there at the moment. I'm like, I'm not sure my family would, I was like, are we moving to Wrexham? I'm like, yeah. But no, but yeah, it's you guys that really sold the place. Ryan and Rob were just the catalyst to kind of getting to know you, really.
You're on a journey now. Next season, there's going to be 22 new teams for Wrexham to play. So, it's great for...
We're planning already. We're like...
it's up that level.
Yeah, so we're already planning, where places are, and, people are already asking about international memberships, and I'm kind of trying to coordinate the group. But yeah, for me, it's, the one thing I don't want, or I'm kind of getting stressed, is that if Wrexham ever play Liverpool, because I grew up as a Liverpool fan since I was 8 years old, because Liverpool used to be on TV a lot on a Saturday morning. So if Liverpool played at 3 p.m. UK time, they were always live at 10 a.m. on Channel 21. So that's kind of grew up with that team as my team. If Wrexham ever play Liverpool, I must admit, I will be very stressed, But yeah, it'll be a great game, but I'll be very stressed that game.
A draw would do, wouldn't it? A draw would do in that situation, I think.
But a draw's boring, though. You kind of like I said, as an emotional sports fan, you want to go through the ups and downs because if you're in the down, you embrace the ups even more. I just don't want too many downs. I want more ups than downs, but it's good to have that little bit of a reality check sometimes and like I said, that Sheffield game for me was the key game for Wrexham because how they played against the Sheffield game, the team who were 4 divisions up or 5, I can't remember. I can't remember where they were, but
championship.
That for me was the game that demonstrated how far they've come for me. And I was at that game and I was really proud to see how far they've come because it's very difficult to sometimes measure yourself against progress when you don't have something higher to kind of, in any walk of life, you only know how much you progressed when you've been challenged with something a lot more difficult to deal with. So that Sheffield game, I know they lost the second game they lost, but my God, how you could not come out of that game optimistic for the club and the team and the background staff, the background, team and everything like that is fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. So obviously fans can find you at Wrexham Canada on Twitter.
Yeah. So it's Wrexham_Canada. We've got a Twitter account, Instagram account, and a Facebook group for Canadians who are coming over or UK based. And that's where we kind of have our group chats and our trip plans and so on. But yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for joining us on Sports Quotes and Facts Untold.
Well, thanks for the invite. It's great. I love to talk about sports, so I can make it for 3 hours. But yeah,
and I'm sure you'll have many more stories to tell next season.
Hopefully. Thanks a lot, Elliot. Nice to meet you.
Thanks a lot, Sandy. Thanks. You too. See you later. Thanks.
See you later. Bye.